Marky Worthington Podcast all day.
All day.
Dream by night.
Don't buy me a drink. Just give me $10.
All day.
Go down to the strip club with your floppy disk and turn it into a hard drive.
Yeah, right. You'll get fucking thrown out by Big Tony.
We're here to name names and make people feel more ashamed for shit that they're not proud of.
Don't blow it. Keep it simple. Count your money.
No, whatever it is.
Hello and welcome to the Marky Worthington Comedy Podcast. This is episode 101 with first time ever on the show, Jez Margosis. How you doing?
Living the dream, Mark. You like yourself, mate?
Good stuff. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Oh, thanks for having me. This setup, I have to say, is pretty sensational.
Yeah.
And the fact that you've got some wonderful posters of yourself up there as well.
Yeah, mate. Do you ever feel like there's 8 of me watching you?
Yeah.
Well,
It's not
now's
bad.
your chance.
I mean, it's better than the usual you watching me through the bathroom window type thing. It's all good.
Yeah, the posters over the years. So for any of the audio listeners, if you see any of the pictures from the podcast or anything like that, you'll see that I've got a bunch of posters from over the years. I've got the first ever open mic at the basement poster that ranged from like 2018 through to 2019, and then 2019 onwards, and then I went for 2022 was the next one, and then finally the end is my first ever solo show. And then in the top right there, courtesy of Nathan Hillman, I have an actual ticket that was printed for my first ever Canberra Comedy Festival show with Jeremy Smith.
Oh, that's a very, very cool way. What's going to happen when you run it next year, though? You run out of wall.
Well, see, that's the best thing about a room. There's always 4 walls to go off.
That's true.
The other ones are pretty full because of all the other posters and stuff I've got. But yeah, I like I like having that on display because I'm sitting here and I edit the podcast and I look up and I see them and it kind of reminds me like of all the gigs that have been over the years and that sort of stuff. Like
the triumphs and failures and everything in between.
Just waiting for triumphs, but at the moment. But yeah, it's cool. It's good whenever I have other comedians on the show that started at the basement. I've been doing comedy for like a year, 2 years, 3 years. Because when they come in, they look at the posters and they say which one they remember. Like if they've been doing it for more than 3 years, it'll be the elder one. And then like you'll go back to the I had Sam Siller here and he's like, I remember that orange one was the iconic because that's when he moved to Canberra. So it's kind of like what you grew up.
It's a time capsule.
It's a bit
really,
like,
it's a time capsule, isn't it?
Yeah. I sit here and get nostalgic from 4 years ago. Normally it takes more than 4 years to look back. But good to have you over, man. We've done a couple of gigs together before. We had I think the first time I ever for listeners to introduce you to them. So I've done comedy now for 6 years, and over the years I've seen what do we got? You good?
Yeah, I think that was mine, which is interesting because I thought I'd turn it not only off but down as well.
Yeah, right.
So
bloody hell, you did the double tap.
big fail there.
No, let's see how popular you are over the next few minutes. But anyway, we've done gigs over the years. I remember the first gig I ever. You may not remember this one, but the first gig I ever remember you from, you emceed a gig at the Phoenix. And it was when after they burned down and they resurrected, they rose from the ashes. And I remember just thinking like, who the fuck is this solid comedian? He's in like, it looks like he does more than comedy because that doesn't line up. I thought that when you were on stage, I was saying to some of the other fellas, I'm like, is this dude like a fucking PT or something? Like, why is he doing comedy? But then you had me laughing, man, and it was obvious why you also do comedy. So
it's good fun. I mean, I won't say I was one of the OGs of Canberra comedy, which is going back for ages, but I think I was on the way here. I was thinking about how long have I been doing comedy for, and I'd be close to somewhere around 15 years, maybe even more. But I started doing a heap. We did Melbourne a few times, and then solo shows in Canberra and then just ended up emceeing a whole bunch of sports stuff, and that kind of took over. And But I still like doing the comedy. It's such a, as you know, such a great rush. It's just amazing. But it's the most difficult of all the things to do, and probably the when it comes down to the brass tacks, it doesn't pay as well as some of the other things. So I think that's why you drifted off. But it's great to get back in and do show like the comedy roast, which is sensational, and and just been involved in the Canberra Comedy Festival every year. Managed to do a show or a couple of shows there every year. So it's good to keep kind of delving back in, and especially because I was kind of away for a while there, and you come back in and there's all these brand new faces that there's still a few of the older generation, but all these new faces and people coming through, and it's awesome to see because it just brings a whole new vibe and a whole new audience as well, which is so cool. Yeah,
nice. Yeah, you mentioned the being one of the OGs from the scene. I had Tom Gibson dropped into a...
he's an OG.
Yeah, I had him drop into an open mic on Tuesday, just randomly hit me up for a spot. I'm like, fucking, of course. Yeah. And we're chatting backstage, 18 years since his first ever gig. Oh, okay. And I was just like, fuck, man. Like, once you crack over 10, like Kai, the last episode, over 10 years now.
Yeah, he'd be well. My first gig I ever did was with Kai. Was on that same.
Oh shit! Well, he's got
it was raw.
His first ever time on stage was 2008. So yeah, when you look at that, so it's way more. Yeah.
So that's about 15 years. That would be. I'd probably be about 14 then.
Yeah, cool. Fuck. Yeah, no, I don't know why I thought of over. Well, it is over 10, but it's fucking 15. That's next level. No, it was good to. And he's kind of been one of the mentors that I've had in the scene over the years. I remember when I first started, Kai wasn't in the scene as much when I first started 6 years ago. And the main dude that I looked up to was Bill Macon.
Oh, yeah. Bill's a very funny guy.
Fucking hilarious, man. One of the best crowd work dudes I've ever seen when he was on the spot. You know what I mean? Like, he'd always have bits or material to get through. But the few times that he ventured away from it, if someone heckled him or whatever, probably some of the best shit I've ever seen.
That's just one of those things, like crowd work, that I think you either can do it well or you just don't try it.
Sure.
And some comedians, because that's where you're almost, if you've got your set, you kind of know, you're in control, you kind of know where you're heading. But as soon as you go crowd work, it's like, safety net gone, let's just roll the dice, because you never know what you're going to get with people and what they're going to say and what they're going to do. And sometimes it turns into absolute gold, and other times it's like, why am I giving this drunk person any kind of airtime? And they're just not working with you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's it. No, I haven't seen him for years, man. Like, I think the last time I seen him was midway through 2020, and then he moved away. So he was a big mentor in the scene for me, because he gave me my first ever Canberra Comedy Festival show. He gave me the support for him in 2019, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, that was good. I think he sold out Street Theatre 3 for that gig. So it was the first time I did a gig that wasn't just an open mic,
Yeah.
Actually, I think I maybe did a paid support before that, but not in the festival. It was like in the upstairs room at the Civic Pub.
It's kind of different vibe, open mic, compared to, because you're like, people have actually paid.
Yep.
So I kind of want to deliver.
Yeah.
Like, you still want to with an open mic, but it's like, you've always got the waiver of, I'm trying stuff out, whatever. But if it's a paid gig, it's like, this is meant to be good.
Yeah.
And if it's not, but like, it's interesting, the people that have come and gone, and those that are still there, and they'll kind of jump, like you said about Tom, just jumping in randomly.
Yeah.
And there's few of the guys and ladies from, kind of way back that still come in and out. And then there's those that have, like Chris Ryan, who stayed consistently kind of in the picture, yourself, now someone who's become a mainstay. And it's the scene's really, really changed, but for the better. There's so many gigs and opportunities. I think when I first up, there was the Pot Belly. Yep.
That's it.
I think that was
Greg Kimball ran it then?
yeah. So
yeah.
Greg was actually the first person I kind of met
Yep.
with Canberra Comedy. That first gig I ever did was with Kai and Greg, and it
Nice.
was Raw. And I got runner-up highly commended, which is Clayton's. Yeah, thanks for coming. And Greg won that one, but he
Nice.
sat next to me and just introduced himself.
Yep.
And we became, really good friends. We're still friends with Greg today. And then we did a lot of gigs together. The same way, I suppose, when you come up through the scene, or even if you're on it, there's people you gravitate towards and you enjoy working with them.
Yep.
And you kind of become friends outside, and you just end up doing lots of gigs together or splitting shows or whatever, because you just kind of vibe. And for me, Greg was that person. So we did Melbourne a couple of times, and we split a show as well at Canberra. So, all those guys that kind of come and go have an impact. And I know, I think sometimes it's sad that they find other things to do, but it's awesome when they come back.
Yeah, that's it, man. He's one of the cool guys that, like, when I first started, sort of was easy to chat to and that sort of shit. He was on one of the early episodes of the podcast. So this is 101. I think he was on like episode 6. Oh, yeah. We hung out back room at the basement, and he talked about. I think it was a 2-part episode, and he just talked about a few things from over the years, comedy, and I think he spoke about how he fucked up a scholarship when he was young. It was just what I'm going to be doing for the listeners is now that I'm in the hundreds, I'm going to, every second episode is going to have me doing a new intro and whatever's upcoming gigs or anything like that. And then I'm going to throw back to an older episode.
Bit of a flashback.
Yeah. So in the next, in the next few episodes, it'll be time for that Greg Kimball one to come out of the archives. But here's the thing. When I first started, I recorded video but only released audio. I still have the video, so now people are going to be able to see the unreleased original videos.
Actually, put the name to the face.
It's fucking, the camera angle's so shit. It's so funny, dude. It looks like a fucking mystery shopper cam. Like, those ones like, Quentin Tarantino should direct it, because most of it is Greg's foot.
Yep.
In frame, because he's wearing thongs. It's mostly his foot right front center. So if you're a foot fat guy, tune into the upcoming
you've
gig.
got it sorted.
I might actually owe Greg more than I didn't pay him for that first episode.
Well, that's OnlyFans there for Greg.
Yeah.
I actually did a gig with Greg to a bikie gang in Burrawa, and he's written an article about this. A bikie gang in Burrawa, where he got on stage, and the first thing they said to him was that if he wasn't funny, they were going to set fire to him.
Fuck.
They also threatened to break his legs.
Yeah.
And just before he started, one of the ladies went, "Who's got me fucking stubby holder?" So we had to stop and find this bikie lady's stubby holder.
Fuck.
Before we went on, and essentially we just got up and would say one line, and then the bikie gang would just yell whatever they wanted at us, and we were like, "Whatever you say." It was literally the worst, but the best gig ever, because you're never gonna have, and never have I had an audience that was so drunk,
Yep.
so full of drugs.
Fuck.
And we actually videoed it.
Yeah.
And there's a guy on at one stage coming up and offering my wife a big joint, and she just goes, "Oh no, you're right, thanks darling, thanks." And
What a fucking...
and then the sergeant of arms came
Yeah.
up and just went, "Some of us may be wanted by the police currently, so that video doesn't go anywhere." But Greg left his joke book. He wrote all these jokes down at the pub at Burrawa, and one of the bikies took it and found Greg somehow and posted it to him.
Holy shit.
And we had a big drink with them afterwards. They were on a ride. One of their members had died, and it was a big kind of charity memory ride. But we went to Burrawa for the year before as part of a what was it? A bit of a rural tour to raise funds and get practice in for Melbourne.
Yep.
And it was we went to Yass and we had 4 people. Fuck. And there was more of us than there were people at Yass.
Yeah,
So we had 4 people. and then went to Burrawa, and we had maybe 20 or 30. So we went, we'll go back to Burrawa, because it was almost that rural thing became a rite of passage. You have to do these crappy shitty hole, places, gigs, and we went to go on Burrawa, and no one turned up, like not a single person. So Bev went, I'm going to go find us a gig, and she's returned and said, hey, we've got a gig. We're not going to get paid for it, but they said if you turn up, we'll listen. So we went to the pub, and this bikie gang had been kicked out of every other pub, and they were outside. So we did it on this wooden pergola thing, which is what Greg was in when they said they'd set fire to it.
Yeah.
And Danny Philippa, who was on the scene, he was still at uni.
Yeah.
So he was absolutely bricking it, because he was absolutely positive that they were going to murder him or take him prisoner and use him in their sex dungeons or something. Like he was bricking it. He was there just before it was going on, and we had to talk him down, because he was going, I'm going to die. They're going to kill me. They're going to hate me, or my baby face and what have you. And so Danny, the first thing he said when he got on stage was, who's armed? And a whole bunch of women put their hands up.
Holy fuck.
And one of them went, do you want me to go and get my gun? And we're like, no, we don't need alcohol, drugs and guns mixing here today. Thank you very much.
Fuck.
And he was so nervous. And as I said, they were just, you'd say a line and they'd just abuse you or say whatever they found was funny. So we were like, whatever. This is something you're going to get through, and no heckle is going to possibly compare to this.
True.
But Danny was a bit kind of, so the sergeant of arms got up and went, right, everyone shut up. And he said, say this, and he whispered Danny a joke. And then Danny told that joke, and then he's looked at the whole bikie gang, the sergeant of arms. So they've all immediately laughed, because they knew,
that's their cue to laugh.
Don't mess with him. Then I'm a bit of a rambler. Then Cale, he's over in the States now. Cale Bogdanos, one of the OG. He got up, but he then decided, and we're like, no. He started trying to take the piss out of them back.
Fuck yes.
And we're like, read the room. It's not like a normal heckle.
Yeah.
These are wanton criminals that are like, let's not. And it got, at one stage, we thought he's going to get shanked.
Yeah.
We had to calm the whole situation down.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was our somewhere back in the annals of somewhere written, Greg wrote an article about the Burrawa bikies. But that gig became kind of legendary. Yeah. And I don't know what it is about Greg, but every time we went to Burrawa, someone would threaten to harm him in some way. So he got set fire to, break his legs, and I think there was something else that they were going to do to him as well.
Fuck.
All these different gigs, but only Greg.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's got a punchable face or something.
Yeah, I don't know, man. He looks like a teddy bear. I don't know if
I know maybe
I'd ever want any harm on him. Actually, from memory, and we're going back like 4 years. He told some of that story when I had him on the show. He talked about the missing joke book and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So it'll be cool for me when I'm editing that to listen back and be able to like put the stories together.
His perspective on it.
Good stuff.
Everyone's got their own little thing.
I don't think he mentioned who else was with him, but it's been years since I recorded that. Yeah, that'll be good, man. I'm interested to. I haven't seen Greg for years, but I'd love to have him back on the show. Like sort of like a contrast between 4 years ago and now, like because he's done a lot in that time. I seen he put out a special that he recorded at the Belconnen Arts Centre, and that was good. Gus up. It's a good spot to record there, actually. It looked like, I think Duck helped him with that recording and audio and shit like that.
Yeah, Duck's been great at helping locals out.
Yeah, he did my first.
It's awesome.
He did my first ever proper recording, Short, Fast, Funny, at the fucking Croatian club, I think it was.
Oh, that's right. They had a whole bunch of people doing like fives, and it was like, here's an opportunity to put it.
No swearing, and I fucking swore so much. And they edited it. The CIT kids edited it.
Yeah.
And I got it back, and it was like 3.5 minutes.
5 minutes cut down to three. One thing I love about Greg is sometimes he will just, and this is not something that will come as news or a shock to Greg, because we've talked and laughed about it, is that he will just get up and do stuff, and sometimes he's like, this is shit. This is not good. This is not funny. But then the way he takes the piss out of himself not being funny turns it into something that is even funnier. It's almost to a point where, as I said, we were gigging lots. It was like, I hope Greg has a shocker tonight, because then it's going to be the funniest show ever, because he's going to have to start ripping the crap out of his how crap he is. It's one of those awesome things that you know, you actually don't want your early jokes to land with Greg. It's like, and then watch him just go after himself. He's the best heckler of himself I've ever seen. It's phenomenal.
No, I've seen it. So when I first opened open mics at the Basement, Greg was on one of the early lineups. Actually, I think it was the same day we recorded that podcast. We did the podcast before the open mic, and then everyone rolled in and we started kicking on with a gig. Greg and I are there. I said to Greg, look, man, you're probably my most experienced comedian on the lineup tonight.
I love the fact that you've gone, you're the best, most experienced.
It's like, I couldn't even fucking lie.
You're the best. You're a comedian on the lineup tonight,
I tell you what's funny, Greg, you're physically here.
Yeah.
The reason that I did that quick on the spot edit, we'll do a breakdown. The reason is because I just went in my mind, he's the best. Oh wait, no, there was probably some that were there that night that are listening to this podcast, and I know how fragile fucking comedians' egos are. And I did that actually to protect other comedians, and then realised once you pointed it out that I'd actually in turn fucked Greg a little bit. And then I thought, but he's got a punchable face, so fuck him. Anyway, what happened was he came and did the gig. And there we go. Next up on stage, we've got Greg Punchable Face Kimball. I'm like, I'd like if you can stick around to go up at the end. Because I want to try and keep people here and get you up at the end and reward people for sticking around, sort of thing.
Reward them with Greg Kimball comedy.
Maybe I had a different way of saying it. Maybe I just said, Greg, you pisshead, sit down, have a couple drinks, and I'll let you know when you're on. But as I'm doing the lineup, somehow I don't even know how he discovered it, but this fucking dude walks in with a thick Scottish accent and says that he was travelling and he's in Canberra for the night. He does stand-up comedy and he's wondering if he can have a spot.
All right.
And I'm like, yeah, no worries, mate. I'll put you up towards the end. How about, towards the end. So I get to the break. I do the lineup for the second half, and I put old mate the Scotsman second last, and then Greg last. Yeah. Right? And the fucking Scotsman, like, he's got the proper Billy Connolly style fucking Glasgow accent, right?
Yeah.
So no matter what, he could read a phone book and cunts would be in stitches, right? So he gets up and does a fucking set that's like we had young Billy Connolly just reincarnated in front of us.
Hey, follow that, Greg.
And Greg gives me a look like, thanks for putting me up last. I really appreciate the fucking spot. And like you said before, he's the best heckler of himself.
Yeah.
He gets up on stage and opens with, let's say that the guy's name was Jordan or something. He just gets up on stage and he goes, who reckons Jordan should have closed?
Yeah.
And that just had everyone off on the right foot.
Yep.
And then he just continued to do his shit, and like every now and then he would just go like, well, that didn't land very well. Well, anyway, how about this one? And then he's like, I'm so fucking glad I stuck around to the end of this, and then just kept going around. And so I've seen it firsthand. Yeah.
I've seen him do one at Ainsley. So Bev used to run a one at Ainsley for a couple of years.
Yeah,
We were getting some really, Greg Fleet, Damien Callanan, Chris, like people started contacting us, contacting Bev. She was really, Dave Thornton and Chris Wainhouse, and they've even since still said, if you ever start a room up again, we'll come and play.
Nice.
But the new owners...
I've heard good things about a lot of those. Like,
it was it was good. We would get about 200 people regularly that would just come, and it was... you know how it is. If a room's successful, then you, and you're part of it, you kind of give yourself some time to get up because it's, it's more stage time.
It's all part of it, yeah.
Yeah, so, and again, that was that time when...
A lot of cases, that's the only way you're going to get paid.
Oh, exactly. Who should I get? Oh, me. Yeah. Greg was emceeing because Greg and I do a fair bit of nepotism, and he wasn't doing well. So he just said, I'm going to start the break off. He said, I hate myself for this, but I'm going to pretend I trip over on the way up. He said, it's the worst kind of lame way to get a joke is to try and trip and, make that
laughing
as
at
a laugh.
You. That's literally what
you're
doing.
I need a laugh. I don't care how I'm going to get it. It's right. And he messed that up even. He tried to do the trip and then kind of confessed that, hey, I was so shit and I was trying to get a laugh by doing this, but I couldn't even do it. And again, won the round by doing that. I used to introduce Greg as an award-winning comedian, which is true, but none of the awards were for comedy.
Yeah.
He harked back to his, under 8 best and fairest or something, which technically is still an award, and he's still a comedian.
Runner-up in Raw.
Yeah.
Well, that's your award.
Yeah, that's my award. Yeah.
We had a guy when I was in high school, and when I started, he was already in about year 9, a couple of years ahead of me. I was from the South Coast, and he apparently early on, like year 7 or 8, was getting on stage for like an awards ceremony or whatever, and he tripped on the top step. Then every time from then onwards, right up, every time he got on stage, he would purposely trip on the top step. And I was in the audience by this point in like year 9 or whatever, and he was getting his year 12 certificate. And as everybody was just hanging on it,
here it is. Yeah,
he gets to the top step and didn't just trip. Went to do the fake trip and fully fucking face planted and slid like he was scoring a winning try. Right. And everyone
Big
was
finish.
like, I mean, it was kind of intentional at that point, but everyone's like, thank fuck that dude is gone, because if he had to repeat, he'd kill himself next year trying to do that.
Getting harder and
trying
harder
to one-up it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the other OG from the scene that I... thought of when you're talking about Greg and different personalities and paying out on yourself and shit. I had a really good opportunity with and bigger gigs over the years. Had a really cool opportunity to have Akmal here last year.
Yeah.
So he came through and did a great show, sold out the basement. And the thing is, because of that, I got a really good opportunity because he actually bought a opener with him that I probably would have never got to meet or work with from the OG scene. He bought Jay Sullivan.
Jay Sullivan. Yep. He moved to England. Oh, Jay, or he's moving to England. Jay was part of the definitely part of the OG. When I first started, Jay Sullivan was like the guy.
Yeah.
So there was like Hamish, Steve O's, Mo, Tom Gibson, and Jay was like the man.
Yeah.
He was kind of headlining and what have you. And I remember a gig he did where his set involved dropping a C-bomb.
Yep.
And we counted one time, and it had 32
Fuck.
in the course of about 2 minutes.
Yep.
And even people who were totally offended by that word by the end of it were killing themselves. Like, it was such a cleverly done thing. But Jay's and Akmal, they've been tight. And Jay's he's one of those people that I've seen him sit there a bit like, I don't know, well, not like Billy Connolly, but in terms of I've got nothing to say, I don't know what I'm going to do, and just get up on stage and free it, style it, improv it on the spot.
It's exactly what happened at Uckmel. He hadn't done comedy in fucking years.
Yep.
And he looked fucking nervous. He was sweating. He was fucking pacing. He was like, Uckmel had to talk him off a fucking cliff a few times. Like, you know, and then I'm like, you know, I'm asking him, how do you want me to bring you up? He's like, just say my name. I don't, like, whatever, man. We'll just do it. Just get me up there. He was fucking, like, nervous as fuck, dude.
Yeah.
And there was a few last-minute plan changes, and they weren't sitting well with him. And then all of a sudden, and I fucking really, like, my comedy gut was telling me that, dude, you're about to do 15 fucking minutes in front of a sold-out basement crowd, and you've been talked off the ledge twice already. How well can this possibly go?
Yeah.
And I would love to tell you the best bomb that I've ever seen in my life, but unfortunately for the story, it was not.
Yeah.
He got up there and crushed for 15 fucking minutes while I was just literally backstage with this dude while he's staring at the wall and unable to, like, concentrate on anything but his set, and just got up there
switch,
and fucking
isn't it?
crushed it.
You just
Like,
see the switch. Like, they get, you know, behind stage, you're nervous, whatever, and then you get on stage, the switch goes, and then it's just, who is this person?
yeah, Kai went to that gig. Kai was in that gig. He went to watch, and he was saying that, like, actually no, he wasn't. I got it confused. He was at the Doug Stanhope gig that I ran. He messaged me beforehand and said, holy fuck, Jay Sullivan's gonna be there, like, just out of the blue. Yeah, that's I got that fucked up. But yeah, Kai wasn't at that one, but he seen the lineup and was like, Jesus Christ, that dude hasn't done it in ages. But also, I'm so glad that I got to see that and just the switch, man. Like, anyone in the audience wouldn't have known the fucking, like, straws he was clutching at
shit show
just before
backstage.
that. And I think part of it was just he hadn't done it in so long. He just wasn't, like, there was a fair bit of unknown.
It's a confidence thing as well. Like, I take big breaks in between, like, just not for any other reason that I'm doing other stuff, and I just can't do it. And then the first few back are clunky, but, like, even like yourself, just see, because you're doing so much stuff, just the confidence and the flow and the ease of which you do it. But, like, 5 years, that's a big break.
That's a big go, yeah.
But the thing you're talking about, you know, Bill and Kai, for you, when I first started, obviously met Greg, but Jay was kind of one of those people that I looked up to, was like, so Jay and Mo. So I think our first Melbourne show that we did was Greg, myself, Jay, Mo, Hamish Hudson, and Rafe Morris did a bit as well. This is kind of way back, but Jay and Mo were two of the guys that I looked to for crafting jokes, and I think still one of my favourite ever gigs was at the Potbelly, and Mo was emceeing, and there was virtually no one there, and he just went, let's have a chat. And that was it. It was like nothing. And it was literally one of the funniest things. He'd go, just yell something out and I will do something with it. And that was it. People, just random people at the bar would yell out something and he'd do a joke about it and almost do a set on it. And it was just brilliant. And then next door's laser tag. I don't know if it's still there.
Still there.
So there was this kid was wandering back and forward and looking in the window. So Mo started, making contact through the glass with this kid and hanging a bit of shit on this kid. And the kid ballsy kid. He would have been about 7 or 8. Walked into the pub on his own. Walked into the pub, walked up on stage. And I swear to God, this is one of these, if you weren't there. But you wouldn't believe, he's grabbed a beer bottle, turned it upside down, and threatened to shank Emo on stage in front of the pub. He said, "I will shank you with this." And we're like, what the hell? Like, you couldn't script that would happen.
Fuck.
And we're just going, who's this kid? Because Emo called him Little Fonz because he had a black leather jacket on and a white T-shirt and jeans and this dark hair, and it was all slicked back.
Fuck yeah.
And just, Emo's like hanging a bit of crap, walks in, up on stage, middle of this pub, threatens to shank Emo. And then,
fuck.
boom, boom, he's like, where are your parents? What's going on? So that never seen or heard of this kid again. But it was like,
holy fuck.
It's like, Emma's going, oh my God, I've just been, Little Fonz has threatened to shank me with a beer bottle. It's
fuck.
It was crazy.
Hey, if you're listening, Little Fonz.
Yeah, you know who you are. You know who you are.
I run Potbelly gigs now. I picked that back up. So
That's good. That was like a little mainstay early on, and then is it interesting that what venues have come and gone as well?
Yeah.
I mean, that's great to see. Kind of one of the
50 years in a few years, the Potbelly. Wow. Since it's first opened.
That's crazy.
And I had I've only just taken it back in the last year. But it's good to have comedy there because there's so much history in that fucking building. Are the
gigs still like, hey, we're doing a comedy gig tonight, but half the place is just there still to drink and they're not there for the comedy, and they're going to have a conversation and give a shit if there's some comedy going on. We're just going to talk at the pub and you're just going to have to talk over us.
It's pretty much that everywhere. But the good thing is there is actually one of the best things about that bar is there's nowhere to hide. So and they've raised the stage too, so you've got a bit of more height. So if I'm there doing comedy and there's people there just having a meal or whatever, most of the time, like, still not yet, haven't been able to win them over. Like, there's been a few times where people have gone in there to have a burger or pizza or something and have a beer, and I've gone, are you guys here for comedy? No, we're just here for... Because I'll ask them. I'll straight up, ask, and there's a lot... Maybe they'll leave during the break, but they definitely finished their fucking burgers like 5 comedians ago. Yeah. But they just wanted to, stick around. So I actually think that we've got a few people to stick around, which is a good... And
potentially come back.
Yep.
Which is good. That's what you need, because there's so many gigs on now, and it's like I said, it's really exploded in the last little bit. And I had my big kind of time away there while I was establishing myself doing these other MC gigs things, but you come back and it used to be one open mic, and then you'd go and Civic Pub was like the pro place, and Potbelly was it, and there was nothing else really in between. And now there's places all over the place and places all over the place. Wow, no, well done, Captain Obvious. But open mics all over the place, and so many opportunities, and comedians wanting to run rooms, and that's a hard thing to do. And you do it really, really well, is to have the time to have someone go, I'm going to run this room and organise all that, and then try and build it up and keep it going. And that's, I think, why so many places came and went, is because they didn't have a comedian that was committed to it, or someone that was committed to running it. And the place themselves, so many places were like, yeah, comedy's good, but poker machines pay a lot more. Yeah. A lot of rooms have
fallen to that.
Even Civic as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
And that's
one of the main. I remember my first paid gig at Civic Pub. I was like, "Fuck, this is how it could be." You know,
that's the thing. Is like, oh, a paid gig at Civic Pub. I've kind of made it now. Like that was the thing that you were now considered someone that was good enough. You were made it. Like,
I still got, so like, you know how you get they'd give you like a drink ticket, and a lot of comedians keep their first dollar they ever earned from comedy or whatever. I kept my first ever drink ticket because at the time I think I drove and I got 2 and I got 1 and I was like, fuck it, I'd rather have the drink ticket than the drink at this point. So that's in my collection of comedy shit. It's not my first ever payment because I don't know if I got paid. I feel like I only got the drink ticket.
That was your payment.
I think I wasn't even meant to be on it. I think someone pulled out and last minute there's like, is anyone able to do a 5-minute spot? And I was the first to jump in that was on it. So I got the drink ticket, and I'll tell you a funny story about, Benny Egmalees?
Yes, yep.
So I remember one time we did this gig there. Benny was there. I think he was doing like one of the feature spots or whatever, showcase or whatever. He was doing like a longer set. I was doing one of the support sets. And we get in there, and he does. I didn't know him too well. I think I first met him at the Phoenix when he first moved down from Sydney.
Yes,
and I've been chatting to him at the open mic and shit, and then we're on this paid gig together. And I was like, yet again, it was another paid gig. I kept me drink ticket. I think I've got about 3 or something from over the years.
It's all memories, though. All memories.
And they're all different colours. They used to make them different colours and shit. And they'd expire like sooner. I think on the day. Like you had to spend them that night. Anyway, so I get there. And I'm like, well, I've got my drink ticket. So that goes in the pocket for the collection. I go up to the bar and I'm standing behind. I'm driving again, so I'm thinking I'll just get a soda water. So I'm standing at the bar and I look over Benny's shoulder, who's in front of me, and the bartender's making up this drink. And she's got this large, tall glass, and she's just putting soda water in it, and she fills it up, and then she puts it up on the bar, and Benny's sort of like looking elsewhere, and he looks back. And he leans in and he says something to her. And she goes, oh, okay. And then gets him a shorter glass and gives it to him. And then he pisses off. And I get up to the front. And I'm like, oh, don't throw that out. I'll take it, And she goes, okay then. And I'm like, cool. And I turn around and I take a sip of this fucking thing. And it's like rocket fuel.
Oh,
And I was like, what the fuck? And I go up to Benny, and I'm holding this fucking glass. I'm only taking a sip out of it. And I said to him, bro, what the fuck did you order? This tastes like fucking... It tastes like maybe gin and soda. Is it like a fucking double or something? And he just looks at me, and he goes... Triple, cuz I'm not here to fuck around. And I was just like, shit. So I drank a third of that and gave it back to him. Fuck it. I have to drive. I can't have more. So dude, he just fucking, that was my first introduction to that shit.
What are your thoughts about drinking before or during a gig? Because I've never had, I just go, I need to be focused and sharp. That's just me. I know some people are better if they had a few drinks and loosen up a bit. It's there's no real right or wrong. It's you got to find out what works for you. But are you someone that has a drink?
Man, there's people over the years I've seen either, especially emceeing so many open mics, you see people that need to be fucking shit-faced to get on stage. You see people that are the other side and they're just like, no, if I have a drink, I'll forget my shit.
Yeah.
I've seen people like fucking Tom Gibson, who's a fucking psycho. The first ever paid gig I ever did, he was there. And I spoke to him about this recently. I get to the top of the stairs at Civic Pub and he's got a Coke, a beer, and a water, and he's fucking mixing between them to balance himself to the right amount. He's like, oh, a bit more water. And he was like a fucking chemist, just mixing his own level of fucking intoxicated versus awake.
Yep.
And so there's that, which is fucking hilarious. And but I don't drink too much because the first ever time I ever went on stage, I thought, oh no, I'll have one drink just to calm the nerves, and I fucking forgot a couple of bits leading. So my first ever set had a couple of small jokes and then a story at the end. Safe first ever set. I forgot 2 of the 3 little jokes at the start, so I only had one, which wasn't the strongest one of the 3, and I went straight into the fucking story and I stretched the story out, so by the time I got to the end, everyone was fucking over it.
Yeah.
And I blamed the one drink that I had, so I went for like 5 years of not drinking before shows, and in the last 12 months, I've gotten to the point where I don't drink before I MC. Like if I'm doing open mic MC stuff, I don't drink. But if I'm doing like a spot and I'm not driving, then I'll have a couple before and then a few after.
Yeah,
but
because you know what you're doing. Whereas
that night with Benny's triple, and that's why she gave it to her in the tall glass, because I could just picture her being like, "Look, we're not allowed to do triples in a short glass."
Yeah.
So he's probably just gone, "Oh, well, just give me a double then or something,"
Yeah.
you know. But I that was after I'd already done my set, so I'm like, all right, I'll have me one drink and then I'll be here for a couple of hours and then fuck off. But just hanging around after the gig and stuff is cool. And that was the Phoenix the first gig I ever seen you with, to try and continue down that route. The second gig I ever did with you, that I remember would have been at one night you MC'd Bean Central.
Yep.
And I hadn't put... and so the lineup goes, first ever at Phoenix, you MC'd Bean Central. You did the Comedy Roast last year, and then I've got you for the Comedy Roast this year, which is awesome. Now, the reason that it went down so well with the 2 roast gigs and why I wanted you to do those is because I'm a massive ice hockey fan. And I didn't take the time to see the person announcing it. I obviously knew the voice, but I didn't know the person. I was at Bean Central. I was next up on the lineup. And I've got a sound sample. I might just put it in right here. So people are going to hear this sound sample. And I'll chuck that in right now. And we're coming back from the sound sample.
Look at that.
That's
dark magic right there.
That's right,
Whoa.
exactly. Yeah, look at that. Fucking, that's fucking 5 years, going on 5 years of podcasting coming into that skill set.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was about to get on stage, and just as you're announcing me, I hear that sound sample, and I'm like, oh, fuck, it's the dude from the Brave games. And I had to go into my set knowing that I was about to have a chat to you after about fucking ice hockey.
Yeah. I remember you came up and went, oh, my God. That kind of story was... Because I think that's it. Like sometimes if you don't know the face, you hear the voice, and you're like, or even the name. Sometimes I know the name, but if I see the face, I'll put it to it. So yeah, that's a lot of people like, oh, you do? I know. So it's the voice. Yeah, a lot of people, if they go, oh, I look at you and it's like, man, what have you? But then the voice is like, oh, do you do?
Yeah. And you also do, so the other reason it's perfect for the roast battle is, like, I don't think that there's one person within Australia that's more suitable to MC the comedy roast battle. The Mortal Komedy Roast. Roast battle's fucking been owned by someone else.
It's trademarked.
Yeah.
You can't use it.
Yeah, so it's, not officially, but I know that there are people that use that name, and I don't want to confuse it with their gigs. And I think Mortal Komedy Roast is a good theme.
Mortal Kombat. Mortal Comedy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's not fucking trademarked. Anyway, no, the difference is their lawyers give more of a fuck about the big money. They know not to chase someone like me.
Yeah.
But there's no one more qualified. You've got not only comedy, MC and MMA. We're doing like Mortal Komedy being like a combat style comedy roast.
Yeah.
And that's why you're perfect for the job, man. What's the other stuff you do? You got MMA. What's that like?
Yeah, I suppose I started off doing the comedy. And here's a boring one for all the listeners. And then I was involved doing, I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. Yeah. So I've done that since 2007.
Hence being a fucking nug.
It was like I played rugby for 20 years and stopped, and I was like, what can I do now?
Yeah.
Did a bit of Oz tag, and that says, no, there's no physical contact. I need something that, and then, MMA and jiu-jitsu, but jiu-jitsu's, it's like, sometimes you get too old to be punched in the face, but, hugs.
Yeah.
Hugs in your pajamas.
Yeah.
And then it kind of went to the fact that a guy was running a cage promotion, a MMA promotion, and then his MC pulled out and he went, well, I know you get on stage and talk.
Yeah.
And you know jiu-jitsu and MMA because you train it, so why don't you MC? And that did that, and he went, that's brilliant, you can do it from now on. And then another organisation saw, and they do, well, we do Muay Thai and boxing, can you do that? I was like, yeah. And then, as I said, Bev ran the comedy room, and she got a phone call from Dave Lewis was one of the original Brave players, his wife.
Yeah.
And she said, Bev, you know MCs? Do you know anyone who's an MC that knows anything about ice hockey? And I've followed the ice hockey since the 80s.
Yeah,
like
for
way
the
back.
Knights times. Yeah,
and just NHL as well.
Brave's fairly recent, isn't it? In
Yeah,
the grand
so that was
scheme of
2012.
Yeah.
And then Bev was like, well, yeah, nepotism, boom, in it comes. It's like, pick me.
Fuck yeah.
And then from that, I even got the Canberra Chill, who's in the new Hockey One Australian League.
Yep.
The guy came to the Brave game and said, can you do the field hockey for us? So
Yes.
got the big finals on here in Canberra next weekend.
Fuck yeah, dude.
And then, so all these kind of different things. So there's the emceeing the fight shows. So I do a lot of MMA, boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing shows. I do emceeing and commentary.
Yep.
And then, the ice hockey, and then the field hockey, and then kind of comedy shows as well in amongst it. And then MC, I've started emceeing a few weddings and trivia and
Fuck yeah.
occasionally, but I mean, it's for me, it's never going to be a full-time thing. I've seen how much time and effort people have to do to turn it into full-time.
Sure.
But I love doing it. It's a great little kind of pay some bills, and they're all things that I'd want to be at. It's like, would you want to come to this event? I was like, yeah. So, hey, do you want the best seat in the house?
Yep.
And I just love having a microphone and talking.
Yeah.
Like, that's a bit of a thing. But that first comedy roast battle, that was the most bizarre, one of the most, besides the bikies, the most bizarre gigs ever. And you would know, because we all went to get up and do a 5-minute set.
Yep.
And we're like, let's pull out some good polished material that we know's hit at festivals and paid gigs. Nothing. It's like cricket's like, what the?
Yeah.
And then we did the roast battle, and it was the killerest one ever. It's like, so the crowd is essentially, no, you promised us comedians destroying each other.
Yep.
That's what they were there for. It was so, but it was, I love the backstage stuff before you guys went on.
Fuck,
I remember someone just going, hey, I'm going after your wife and kids, right? It's you fat prick. Yeah, no worries. And give me a hug. I really love you. And everything I'm about to say is just part of it.
Funny.
It was like Waiver Central. It was like, hey, when I say this about you, I don't really mean it, but it was.
The best thing was, like, one of the other comedians dropped in to say g'day, like, after the first half. And after we'd all done our 5-minute sets, because we'll still do that format this year, because I like the audience knowing the person from a 5-minute set before we get into it. But it's also fucking hilarious to see the audience just be like, we're not here for this. We want to see you roast each other.
Don't want this.
But the best part is, one of the other comedians dropped in to say g'day, walks into the green room and says, how's the first half been? And one of the other fellas goes, bro, we just fucking ate a bag of dicks, each and every one of us.
And it was a big bag.
Yeah.
It was a full bag. And what we ate was multiple large sized ones as well. Like it was cluster.
Yeah, they roasted us for the first half.
Yeah.
The audience roasted us, essentially. And I've had people that I didn't know were there hit me up and say that, like, after that gig, like, people that came in, seen the gig, and I didn't catch them before they left, that were like, you need to do another one. So that's why I'm running it again. And I think that all going well, it might become an annual thing. So.
I love it. I think it's great because it's something, there's so many different formats of ways you can do comedy things. And there's the roast battles, kind of famous, in the States and, all this kind of stuff. And, I think it's just a great way to have a comedy show that's just a little bit different. And it's a different way for comedians to get a laugh as well.
Yep.
And it almost gives you an opportunity to practice heckling someone but in a safer way because they're your mate or someone you know.
Yeah,
So
like
you
a trained heckler.
Yeah, it's literally heckler training.
Yeah.
And so you pick up some of these lines. Some of the lines were just brilliantly scathing.
So
and it's
good.
like, you could apply that to anyone. It's heckler training.
Yep.
Essentially, it's heckler training. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's the dude in the padded suit for the attack dog.
Yeah, that's it.
But I did a birthday roast for my 30th, and I had some good ones on that. In fact, I got footage from that, which I'm going to put out for my birthday next year. So March next year, I'll put out some of the clips from that, and fuck, there were some good ones on that. And the funniest thing is, they were roasting each other as well. So, like, it was 4 comedians roasting me. Do you remember Dom? Do you know this guy, Dom? He comes in and out of the scene. He's
Could be one of those know the face.
Yeah, super dry sense of humor. Fucking just hooks straight in, right? He just has. He's been on the podcast before. Such a good dude and good comedian. But he just doesn't rock up very often. And he produced 4 fucking pages. He went at the end.
Wow.
And didn't just do a few quick roasts. It was like a 4-page fucking essay that he read out word for word about my roast. And I've got all that. And so that'll go out. But yeah, it's just a good format. It's a good way to do it. And also it's good fun for the audience because they can vote and sort of get a bit involved as well.
It's a real audience interaction thing. And I think if you have people that come back again, and I reckon people will, because they had, if you say how good was that gig, everyone will go, that was a great gig. Because you forget about the cluster that was the start. It was kind of, but the people I think that come back are like, oh, now we know what it is. Yes, there's the roast, but there's also a bit of comedy at the beginning. And I think that was what people were just expecting, a straight up roast first on. But now that it's kind of clear that, that's part of it, but there's also a bit of this as well.
I think it's about announcing that at the start so they know what they're in for.
But that's how you learn. Your first gigs, whether it's a new room or whatever it is, it's like, we've got to work out. Because the audience, you got to work out with each other. Like, it's that kind of dance that you do. There's also some comedians that, you get up and you do a 5 and they're like, that's pretty good. But then you give them the roast thing. Like, it's suddenly like, that's your thing. You're just really good at being an asshole to people. So, which in itself is, that's a different skill set.
The best roast jokes about myself, which is a shame because I don't get to use them as much. But I think that's a good quality to build on. Like, I'll sometimes roast previous comedians if I'm emceeing the thing. Like, or they'll have a go at me. I've had a few people chuck out, like, they'll throw out a quick one for me. Dude, the best roast that I ever had against me was Sam Talent. I brought Sam Talent up on stage. I booked him for Canberra. He has his own promotion company, but they, through contacts of Doug Stanhope, they put Sam Talent up. I'm like, sweet. He gets up on stage, starts by roasting the venue a bit, the basement, says that it looks like a goth's lounge room.
Yep.
It looks like, all this stuff. And he goes, and now we're on to Marky. Jesus Christ. He goes, that bloke looks like he was conceived in a haunted hot rod. And I was just like, fuck me, I cannot outdo that. So that goes into the list of my favourite roasts against me. But we'll close up with a story. I want to talk about, like, a lot of your sports that you MC, like MMA, hockey, are not comedy, are contact sports. Yeah. Like this, well, you see a fair bit of contact and shit. I've been at a game which you MC'd at. I can't remember the team, but one of the dudes copped a fucking puck to the face and lost 3 teeth. Yeah. And it was so fucking full on. I think it was around 2017, 16, 17. Adelaide, I think one of the guys from Adelaide. I can't remember exactly, but I had just started playing myself and I seen that and I was like, that is why I wear a full fucking visor. Yep. There's no way. And dude, like, for anyone that's an ice hockey fan, they probably see shit like that all the time. You know, I watch games in the States where they've got like outdoor fucking rinks and all that sort of shit. And dude, the one thing that sticks with me from that was the dude was on his knees, right? Pool of blood. They cleaned him up, no worries, right? Brett Burns, like from the NHL with a fucking miss. And I seen a video where worlds collide, ice hockey and MMA.
Yep.
I seen a video where Brett Burns and Conor McGregor met each other. And the height difference is fucking crazy there. But like, so Conor McGregor's a fan of ice hockey and he's a fan, and Brett Burns is a fan of MMA. So he signed a stick and gave it to Conor, and Conor signed a pair of MMA gloves and gave it to him. And the first thing that Conor said is like, "What the fuck happened to your mouth?" And
that's not a bad accent, mate. That's pretty good.
And it was a bit like, "Do you like dogs?" Like, you know, that fucking Jesus Christ, look at this fella. Anyway, he says, he copped a stick to the mouth, and they won't fix it until after he finishes, after he retires. But now that the bridge is weakened, he can lose more easily. So the rest are more susceptible. But the one thing that I remember about that dude from fucking Adelaide copping that puck sweet to the chops is fucking Scruffy, the manager, or the rink, not the rink manager, but the dude that does one of the Zamboni dudes.
Yep.
Not the guy that's still there, the dude that's not still there.
Yep. Yeah, no, I know him, mate.
Comes out with a fucking shovel in a pair of fucking, not even like skates or anything. Yeah. He rocks up in a pair of fucking boots that look like they're about to grow roots, and he fucking scoops out a section of the ice and puts it into a bucket and just pours a bottle of water in there and lets it refreeze. That was fucking, like, in front of everybody. And I thought to myself, you've probably seen some wild shit. Have you seen any, aside from something that you would have seen that I just mentioned? Yeah. What's one of the more hectic injuries you've ever witnessed?
Oh, I've seen a couple of dislocated shoulders in MMA fights. Yeah. People landing and things just get bending in.
Is that your thing? Like mine's like blood and teeth. But if that's like that, that's your thing.
Things when things are just not in the direction they're meant to, and it's really, really bad.
I think that's more OCD.
That's pretty bad. I have seen players and team officials skating around the ice looking for where someone's teeth.
Fuck yeah.
That's a good one because it's like, hey, if we get this on ice, we can potentially save it.
Fuck yeah, dude.
That's
the tooth fairy would make a killing if they defrosted Phillip, wouldn't they?
There's so many ice hockey players, and even like here for the Brave, they're like, I'm not getting it fixed now because there's a chance I'm just going to lose more. Yeah. So I'm going to wait till my hockey career's over, then I'll get it sorted.
Fuck.
But so many players are missing teeth. Yeah. So like, even back in the day, goalies never used to wear masks.
Fuck, dude. I seen a photo recently of a 1950s goalie.
Like the Elephant Man.
Yeah, dude. There's a 1950s goalie, and the caption, because I follow a few ice hockey pages, or ice hockey fights and shit like that.
Ice hockey fights, one of my favourites.
Yeah, and I listen to when I get the chance. Joe Bartnick, who's a comedian, does a podcast called Puck Off. And they talk about games and shit like that. Joe Bartnick is one of my favourite comedians. He's friends with Bill Burr and shit like that. Like he's in that scene. Yeah. Well, Bill Burr skates as well. He talks about it on his podcast, how he does a few like fucking drop-in games and shit. Actually, speaking of MMA and like shoulders and shit, Bill Burr described perfectly the broken ankle from an MMA fight. If someone goes for a shin kick, he's like, it reminds him of when a kid puts on their dad's gumboots and they can't fucking step properly, so the foot is like to one side.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't fucking not think of that. But how good's that, you know? You get Connor fucking parked up with a broken leg, like, your wife sent me DMs, you know, fucking doesn't give a shit. He's
still gobbing
fucked
off.
Up. Yeah.
Still gobbing off. I think that's I don't know. A lot of people don't like it, but I like the contact.
Yeah.
But in saying that, you get to see, like as comedians, you get to see in the green room, you get to see behind the scenes, and all the yeah, there's some fighters that don't like each other, but 99% of them will have a chat and a drink with each other afterwards and take photos and up Facebook friends and follow each other's careers. And because you see people at, the gyms all go to the same different fight shows. So you get to know everyone. And it's same with the hockey as well. Like a lot of them are good friends from rep teams or youngsters and that. And it's sport, and it just happens to be a contact sport. Same as rugby league, AFL, and whatever else it might be. Even like not the ice hockey, but the field hockey, those short corners, and you've got essentially putting a sieve on your face as a mask, and then running towards someone who's about to thunderclap a freaking hard ball at the goal, and you're like, I got some rolled up newspaper in the socks and this little sieve thing on my face, so I'm just going to run at it blindly.
So you got,
try and stop it. So there's going to be injuries, but it's no one's being forced to.
There's also long-term injuries as well, things that might be niggling, but like you don't see. I've had a MMA fighter on the show twice before, from up the North Coast, called Drop Bear. Female fighter, Danielle Curtis.
I have emceed a couple of her fights.
Cool, good stuff. Yeah, so she's been on the show twice. I used to work with her at the basement as bartender.
Small world.
And I've had her on the show twice, and she spoke in length about her first ever fight was against a trans athlete, male to female, and was just brute strengthening through every fucking bout. It was an open weight and open age. And
was it jiu-jitsu or MMA?
No, it was open style as well.
Oh, wow.
Fucking, like I might be getting some of the details fucked up, but basically what happened was it was just too much range in this thing. So she comes in, first ever proper gig, and I think it was like for prize money, but it was basically winner takes all. And watched a few of this trans athlete's fights, and was just no technique, just pure fucking brute strength right through from get go to woe. And she was like, "Well, I think if I get through to the end, it's going to be me versus her."
Yeah.
Get through to the end. And also, it wasn't just open everything. It was only by submission.
Ah, okay.
No time.
So sub only. Sounds like because I have in jiu-jitsu they have weight classes and then belt classes.
Right.
But there can be a big discrepancy in experience within a belt class, because you could be on a belt for
4 years.
4 years or 5 years or even more. And then they have your weight class, but then they also have open weight. So you got someone who's 50 kilos up against someone who's 120. That can happen in the men's one, and it's like, so I people, if you like, Drop Bear might listen to this and have a few corrections on the story, but this is the first up. But I remember how this winds up. Basically, what happens is, within the first couple minutes, Drop Bear's opponent basically had her in a neck crank and just was reefing at it. No technique, but just couldn't get the technique right, but was just fucking yanking. Yeah.
And she felt it fucking pop. Oh. But she kept fighting.
Yeah.
Eventually won against the trans athlete at 45 minutes.
Wow.
And still has issues with that vertebrae years later.
Yeah. You read about, like, concussion's a big one that's coming up now, which I suppose is why it's like, hey, I'll do jiu-jitsu because there's no one punching me in the face, and I'm 50 next month, so there gets to a point where it's like, what can my body do that I can still be active? Whereas in jiu-jitsu, it's like, hey, I can be doing this for 20 more years easily. So it's great, workout and all that. But if there's all, I suppose with any sport, there's the chances of, injury. Most injuries I've ever had doing a sport is freaking touch footy in Oztag, tearing hamstrings and that. Whereas I haven't really had any major injuries playing rugby and doing jiu-jitsu or any other stuff. But
it's like my uncle says about motorbikes. It's like the only time I've ever been majorly injured on a motorbike was when I decided to go for a short ride on the farm on a postie bike. Everything else out on the road on the big bikes is fine.
I think because if you're training and doing whatever, and it's structured and professional, and you know what's happening, and it's not some ad hoc where things are going to get a little bit crazy. But But yeah, it does. You're right. The meld up to, again, circle a train around, the meld up between that kind of MMA announcing and what have you, and the comedy thing, it's a perfect fit. Like that's in the red corner, in the blue corner, all that kind of stuff.
Some good MC shit. So let's wrap it up with that. So if anyone wants to come along to the Mortal Komedy Roast on the 30th of November, we'll have Jez is going to be emceeing it. We've got a lineup of myself, Zane Harlem, and Laura Johnston as well. There'll also be ring card girls and a chance to win a bar voucher as well. So it's a mighty packed show full of and a guest at the end, special guest to cap off the end of the night. Ooh. So yeah. Cheers for being on the show, man.
Nah, mate, absolute pleasure. It's been awesome. Thank you very much.
Yep, what a good chat.
Cheers, Mark.
Closing out episode 101.
Live the dream.
Cheers.
Don't buy me a drink. Just name names. Right. Big Tony. You'll get fucking thrown out of the strip club with your floppy disk.
All day.
Make people feel shame for shit all day.
Don't blow
Turn
it.
it into a hard drive. We're here to
Keep it simple. Count your money.
that they're not proud of.
Just give me $10.
Hey, right.
Click.
Did you hang up?
No, I just said click.